So that is us this morning, on a Friday morning, a drizzly Friday morning, headed to the physio. If you're going to do an event with a magnitude such as this, you're probably going to be no stranger to a physio. The reality is, if you're actually pushing yourself on a regular basis, I'd recommend that you create a good relationship with a physio. Not always because you're going to be in pain or something's going to be broken, but it's about being proactive, preemptive, and professional with it. One thing we know to be true about most high performers, especially blokes, I'm really honest, is we like to employ what's referred to as passive coping mechanisms, whereby we either try and avoid, ignore, or endure the problem. The amount of guys that I've spoken to about, oh yeah, I've probably got like a torn rotator cuff, but I work around it on the bench and stuff. Okay, you might be getting away with it, quote unquote. You're gonna fucking pay for it when you're getting north of like 50, 55. Now, for me in this situation, there's obviously specific pertinence to making sure everything's working as it should, because of the amount of volume that we're doing both now in training and also come the day of the event. Anything that is malaligned or dysfunctional, that volume is going to be what takes it past the threshold, and you're going to start to get that failure, etc. and so forth. So, as a generalization, I'm handling things really pretty well. The body is adapting, responding, and evolving really well, which I'm very happy about. The one concern at the moment is my right knee. There's no pain, but I keep tending to get a feeling of instability in it, and there's a bit of inflammation, and the knee is actually itself hot. Now, if the knee is hot with inflammation, it means, well, something's aggravated, something's happening in it, and if there's instability, could point towards maybe strain of a ligament or a tendon that helps control the proprioception within the knee. So yeah, I work with Jeff at Harrison Ross Physio out here in Wilmslow. Fucking really cool guy. Phenomenal physiotherapist. I should probably put that in there as well. And he's kept me in one piece. He's kept me right for quite some time now. So I do really implicitly trust him. So I want to go get the knee assessed, and I trust him to give me an objective rundown of, okay, it might well be this. If that's the case, this is potential ramifications. This is what we need to do to be proactive. And for me, what I'm really looking for is the peace of mind that, okay, you can continue to run on this, and yes, you might experience pain, but you ain't going to break anything or necessarily exacerbate any real structural damage, because that then just ticks a box in your head and you're like, okay, cool, I know where I'm at. Flip side of that coin, it could also be we suspect there's a damage to X structure, and we're going to need to really amend how we're doing things, might need to go for follow-ups, so on and so forth. But that's the reason that I perceive most people avoid those conversations in these physio appointments, because they feel they're going to get told something they don't want to hear. So therein lies the link between doing inner work psychologically and having body work done physiologically. What I mean by that is, this might be you. You'll definitely know someone if it's not you. People have a propensity to attach their self-worth and their identity to a level of fitness or an activity associated with fitness or a certain type of exercise. And when they're doing it, they feel good enough, they're producing numbers, so on and so forth. If you ask them to go into an environment whereby they might be told, you can't do that for a little while, you're gonna have to change the way you do that for a little while, it feels like an inherent attack on their self-worth and their identity, so they avoid it. And that's the real reason why people are super fucking avoidant with stuff like this. So when you've been proactive and professional with doing the inner work, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about today, you don't have that, because you're able to be more objective, more rational, more non-biased. It's not that it's not disappointing and frustrating. That's absolutely normal. That's absolutely the case. But you've got the mental tools and the repertoire to be able to work through that, knowing that that is not you. Like an exercise, an activity, a job role, a title, a fitness standard, that is not a defining factor of you. You get fulfillment from so many other areas of life. That is just something that you happen to enjoy and be very proficient at. That's kind of the spiel on doing inner work versus doing body work. And it takes a while to get there. For the longest time I was a person who was very passive and didn't want to be told that I shouldn't do X, Y, and Z, so on and so forth. But yet again, if you have a really good physio, it's very, very rare that they'll tell you that you shouldn't be doing that. And I in fact, actually put a massive red flag in any physio who's like, nah, just stop doing that, because that's not helpful, that's not productive advice. You can't just avoid things if they're not going as intended. You've got to look at the first principle reasoning and what do we need to reduce it down to, and how can we improve and optimize and make more robust that system. So you might have to massively regress, but if it's something that inherently fills you with joy, makes you happy, or is conducive to a goal, then you're going to have to do it, and that's the reality of it. So yeah, going to go and see what Jeff's got to say. Fingers crossed it's nothing, but we shall find out. It's not unstable because I've run on it and I'm lifting on it. Yeah. But do you know what I mean? When like the proprioception is just a bit off, and I'm like, I'm not sure if that's going to be a strange structure or if I'm just being a pussy. But I was like, I want to be preemptive and see where we're at with that, and just go from there.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it sore?
No pain. That's kind of where the information tends to be. I'll drop trial in a moment, but yeah, it's kind of like there. But again, like if you palpate, like, there's no real pain. It's just a bit more information there is on that knee, and it's that feeling of instability, like stressed it or strained it. But we'll kind of see where we're at.
Okay. When did you last run?
Last night.
Okay.
Yeah. Runs have been fine on it.
So when you're running, you feel alright?
Yeah.
The patella is being dragged that way a little bit.
Yeah.
So as I say, that one's nice and loose. Sits in little grooves a bit like that.
Yeah.
The knee is just a hinge joint, so it bends and straightens. Patella floats across the top and just glides in its little grooves quite happily.
Yeah.
But when it's being dragged by tightness laterally,
Yeah.
it's tracking off.
Yeah.
So it and that little clunk we heard is me effectively. I'm not relocating or anything like that.
Yeah,
It's just it's being dragged a bit this way.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to stretch it. It's not happy about moving. So in effect, we need to make sure we need to loosen these lateral structures to allow that to just sit back in a better position.
Yeah.
And then that takes tension. So, and the problem is what you've got now, left that and you did nothing. In a couple of weeks, then you're hobbling on it because it's now rubbing and grinding and inflaming and getting sore, and then we have to start going, hang on, we might need to back off here. Which we don't want to do. Jump on. So excellent, good proactive work.
Fucking hell, I think you found it, mate. That's the weirdest feeling, but also really excruciating. Fuck. Oh, straight.
Did you see that though?
Yeah, I felt it.
Came from here to there. So that. You've done the right thing. You've come in at the right time. This is when we want to see you now, not in 2 weeks' time when you can't run.
There are going to be a lot of people watching this saying stop showing off. I just fucking wish you could feel this. That's us now about to head into a team meeting with the directing staff. Typically we have 2 hour-long meetings a week, one at the beginning, one at the end, where we discuss a multitude of different structured topics. And then on a monthly basis, we have a slightly elongated one, which means we can kind of review and preview what's gone well and opportunities for improvement for the month ahead. So that's us now stepping into that. So back to back this morning, just stepped out of that meeting with the directing staff, which went extraordinarily well. Really happy with delivery over the course of this month. Not only the guys fucking absolutely smashing it in terms of how we're delivering to the team, we're also constantly iterating, and we've got a very exciting new system development to unveil moving forwards too. Now we're heading into what we refer to as the monthly battle planning session with the client team. So long story short, those guys get a weekly call, which is like our after action review. And then on a monthly basis, we have, again, an elongated feature length whereby we look at previewing what it is that we're going to be achieving, what we're going to be rolling out, and how we're going to be delivering that for the month ahead. And then looking at reviewing how things gone this month. So we have quite a lot of shares on biggest wins of the month, biggest lessons of the month. The guys go into breakout rooms and kind of just roundtable that. And they come back in for sort of strategic questions, things they can journal on, think around, and basically can drive their efforts. And I guess allow them to grow into a vacuum of growth throughout the month ahead.
To your children, not to do as I have done. Spend your life sitting in misery.
So obviously we were at the physio today, came home immediately into a couple of hours of meetings, both sort of staff meeting with the directing staff and then straight into a monthly call with the client team. Then a couple of other follow-ups off the back of that, had a little bit of downtime, just relax. And now we're going out to get in a bit of a recovery run. I think I've already touched on my philosophy with regards to recovery versus recoverability. The sole intent of this is no particular pacing, very relaxed, and you should feel better at the end than you did at the beginning, in advance of a longer run tomorrow with some speed work on the end. I guess this just speaks to the importance of being proactive with your physio or your self-care, your body work, your mobility, so on and so forth. I'm pretty switched on and diligent when it comes to like mobility, at least 15 minutes a day, like of various different drills, from like activations to then like static stretching, and irrespective of what your thoughts are on that, it fucking works, like in terms of mitigation of pain and injury, so on and so forth. And if you want to take offense of that, go argue with the physio, not with me. I'm not the guy to argue with. A lot of strength coaches and strength guys say it doesn't work, then also have the mobility of a fucking brick. So it's working. We're prolific and we're proficient with it, but still there's going to be a time when you've got to be a little bit more proactive, and you've got to go and speak to someone who knows more than you, essentially. That's probably in the psychological and physiological sense of that sentiment. So we went to see Jeff, and again, as he said, he was like, thank you and well done for coming in now, because if you'd left it 2 weeks, it probably would have been a very different conversation about your continued ability to do what is necessary to prepare for your event. So it could have gone down a very alternate route. Now, I know of a great many people who leave it too long and get considerably worse, or even like relatively catastrophic injuries, owing to just not wanting to go into that physio office. Understand, like, injury or certainly pain is sometimes a necessary evil of endeavors like this, but just fucking go and speak to someone, like, sincerely. And you can apply that to a wider sense as well, by the way. Like, we were specifically talking about the physio, but there's also carryovers, because now, as a result, I'm able to go out and do a 45-minute run. I'm able to continue as anticipated my preparation for the MDS. Had I not, and just fucking crack on, or just fucking like smash it out, or just fucking grizz it out, I'd have been limping. 2 weeks time, I wouldn't be able to run. You know, fucking 10 to 12 weeks out from the event, I'd be off training, shit in the bed whether or not I can actually do the event, under enormous psychological stress and pressure as a result of that. And it's through this lens you're able to see, well, actually, it would have been my responsibility. It would have been my fault. I behaved my way off the green line by letting my ego do my bidding for me, than actually just going to speak to someone. Worst case, you go to a physio and they're like, fuck all wrong with you, mate, crack on, buzz in. At least I've now got that professional opinion. Best case, as was today, go in, okay, this is what the problem is, this is what's causing it, we're going to treat it, then you should be good to crack on for another couple of weeks, come back in, we'll reiterate, so on and so forth. So yeah, out for a 45-minute run today, and I'll see you when I get back. So we've spoken quite a lot today about the importance of doing the work from a physiological standpoint, in terms of doing the painful, unpleasant, unseen, non-glamorous, but very necessary work on your body. What I also want to transmit is the exact same sentiment for your mind. So on the blurb for this series, I spoke to the psychology surrounding events like this. Now, I'm not naive enough for a moment to suggest that everyone is operating through the same paradigms and perspectives that I am, or everyone that does the event that I'm leaning my ladder against is operating with the same operating system. What I guess I want to share, talk about, and demonstrate are the paradigms and the worldviews that I formulated from, I guess, really quite troublesome rejections that have happened in my life. I'm going to talk to what those were in later episodes. But the root cause of it, we hear from an inordinate amount of particularly young men, mid-20 to mid-30s specifically, sometimes a little bit older as well, who attach their identity to things other than themselves. Their self-worth is wrapped up in a run time, a lift amount, even a job title, anything that is external to themselves. And I can speak to that, and I can resonate with that, and I can connect to it, because for the longest time that was me as a young man. I felt relatively lost. I felt to a degree embarrassed, ashamed, and unlovable in the form that I was, based on, again, the rejections that I had as a younger man. And the easiest thing to do is normally to look outside of oneself to, okay, well, if I'm the rugby player, or if I join the army, that will give me an identity, and maybe that will give me a sense of wholeness, and maybe that will make me feel enough. And then if all else fails, at least I've got something to talk about. I've got an identity that I can create to the external world to hide this part of me that I don't really want the world to see. Now, how that relates specifically to sports performance, running, any outcome like that, how our physique looks, our body fat percentage, our strength levels, any of those kind of things, is that to the greatest extent, if you haven't done the inner work, sooner or later, your vulnerabilities will be presented to you. And in the crunch moment, it shouldn't be the first time you're learning those lessons. What I'm getting at is, with these, I guess droves is the best word for it, of young men who are attaching their identities to how fast they can run, what their Strava looks like, how their body looks, how people perceive they look like them. If you haven't done the inner work, sooner or later something's going to happen and it's going to challenge your ability to do the thing. So you're going to get injured. Something's going to happen, or a runtime is slow. People perceive that your runtime is slow. You're spending so much time in your own head thinking about what other people think about your runtime that actually it creates an enormous amount of anxiety, and you really question your own self-worth, your own ability. Take a fantastic example. This Saturday just gone, we did a marathon around Snowdon with load on the back, meaning my run times were really slow Monday, Tuesday. Mentally, I was fatigued. Physically, I was fatigued, and my run times were really slow. And there was a part of me, that part of me inside, that wants to be validated and wants to be approved of and wants to feel good enough, that was like, oh my God, what if I'm not fit enough? What if I'm not fast enough? And I had to catch those thought processes as they were coming out of me. Now, that awareness is ultimately what we aspire to offer to every single client that works with us here in the Hard to Kill program. Not the space to judge those thoughts or think they're wrong or anything like that. It's actually just the awareness to catch them and understand that thoughts are not things, but ultimately thoughts become feelings, become behavior. And if you're an individual who's attached their self-worth to running a certain time or lifting a certain weight or looking a certain way, then you're outsourcing your happiness, you're outsourcing your confidence, because anyone subjectively could not agree with how you look, or don't think you look great, or think that your run time is not as fast as theirs. And it's opening you up for a plethora of volatilities. And how that presents is people self-undermine. Despite the fact they might inherently want to really do something, like a race like the Marathon des Sables, there's so much fear of failure, there's so much fear of evaluation, there's so much fear of not being the best, because they've attached their identity and their self-worth to that people ultimately don't engage in it. People quit early because if you quit early, at least it was of your volition, at least that was a voluntary thing that you did to regain control, and you can come up with a variation of excuses, and the unconscious mind will come up with reasons and rationales as to why you did that, because ultimately it's easier to accept that you didn't fail. Now, once you've done the inner work, it's not that we should become no longer afraid of not doing our best. It's actually a total opposite. When you realize you're already whole, when you realize that you're already enough, you begin to want to experience those peak experiences for yourself in order to see, oh, how great really can I be? So we're no longer running away from like the fear of failure, and we can actually lean into failure and accept that it's not terminal, it's not finite, it doesn't condemn us, it doesn't mean anything about who we are. And when you do an event of the magnitude of Marathon des Sables, you're going to be faced with all these questions of like, what if I'm not fit enough? What if I'm not fast enough? What if I get injured? And ultimately, those can paralyze you if you're allowing your athletic performance to define who you are and what people think about you. When you've done the inner work, you're able to identify, as I said, like, I'm worthy of respect, I'm worthy of love, like I know that I'm inherently enough, and I'm doing this because I'm curious about what my best self is able to achieve. Now, this might sound a bit fucking left field, this might sound a bit soft, this might sound a little bit woo-woo. Trust me, as an individual who has experienced true peak performance for an extended period of time, as an individual who has operated through both dark energy, that being a sense of fucking scarcity, of hatred, of anger, of I'll fucking prove them wrong, versus a person who now is operating through, to the greatest extent, there's still a little bit, I'm not fucking perfect, I'm a work in progress too, who's operating to the greatest extent of, well, how can I showcase what is possible to other people? How can I create the best peak experiences in my life, and how can I communicate that and articulate it to the world, and how can I allow other people to share in that and be inspired by it? I will tell you now, this version dominates this version every day of the week. How you think is so much clearer. How you behave is so much more wholesome. How you relate and emote and connect with other people. The sense of fulfillment, the sense of gratitude, the sense of direction you have. Because if you're operating from the former, it can all be taken away from you in a moment. And you'll see this. People who get injured and they freak out. They're so paralyzed by fear that they're going to lose it all, and so on and so forth. Or, people make a threat to them in terms of they run faster than them and they're freaking out, and then their ego starts to get enraged and inflamed. And, unfortunately, you'll even see it with hashtag quote unquote influencers always having to say that a run was easy, or I could have gone faster, or just chilling out today. And it's all just fucking smoke and mirrors. So I think if I can do anything, and if I can transmit anything in this episode, it's that, like, we're all a work in progress. No one's fucking perfect, but we have a responsibility to do the work on ourselves if we aspire to be truly happy, and if we aspire to radiate an energy of wholeness, of confidence, and of certainty to those around us. Because if you're lacking something and you're making up for it, and you're hiding a part inside yourself, and you're behaving in a way that is trying to hide that, then it makes other people around you quite on edge and quite anxious. And as a genuine, authentic leader, that's not really a place from which you can be operating. So I know that's quite a long talk there. And a lot of people might have gleaned an enormous amount of value from that. A lot of people may not have. But ultimately, I truly believe that whenever an individual is ready, they will take the lessons that need to be taken from that. Not because I'm the fucking Dalai Lama, but because I've lived through an enormous amount of pain. I've lived with an enormous amount of uncertainty. And I've done a bit of the inner work. And I'm just speaking to you from one page ahead to say, look, like, in my professional opinion, a lot of people are setting themselves up for a lot of friction, frustration, pain, and real emotional turmoil. And if I can transmit the importance of doing the inner work, being surrounded by like-minded individuals who can fucking support you in that endeavor, you're going to go exponentially further and unbelievably quicker. So I hope that helps. I hope that pushes even one person towards taking the move towards doing their own inner work. And I'd love to hear your feedback.